Good morning, Tracy. How are you?
I'm well, and yourself?
I'm fine, thank you. We wanted to do a quick audio check if you don't mind, just a countdown from five for us, please.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning. I'm Trayon White Sr., council member of Ward 8, and also the chairman of the Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs. Today is Friday, March the 25th. Wow. We are meeting remotely using the Zoom platform. The time is now 9:11 a.m., and I'm calling to order this public roundtable on a meeting on safety of youth custody of DYRS. Our children and youth are amongst the most precious aspects of our community. It is our responsibility as adults to and elected officials to ensure that their safety and well-being is top priority. As the chair of this committee, I have oversight over DYRS. For those who don't know what that acronym is Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services. Recently, DYRS made the news, and it's not in a positive way. Although we are not here to specifically discuss the matter that is pending before the courts, we are here to discuss and to ensure that safety and youth in DYS's custody is reviewed and measures are in place to protect our children. In February, I visited DYS facility known as YSC and spoke with youth there. I heard from parents, I heard from youth, um, even staff. And I looked into those different concerns that people had directly with the director, and she's still working through those as she gives me feedback on a daily basis. Um, Today is an opportunity to hear from public witnesses and also Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services as relates to accountability to these very serious matters has come to our attention. So today we'll hear from a few public witnesses. Then we'll hear from the director, Director Cairns of DYRS. Without further ado, let me um, start by Letitia Acosta. Is she here today? If someone can let me know where we are with that.
Not currently, sir.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, Tawana Baylor. Is Tawana Baylor here?
No, sir.
Okay, if you all don't see her or anyone in the waiting room, please let me know so I won't be waiting. Kevin Copeland.
Sir, I don't see any of the public witnesses.
Okay, thank you. So we give about 2 minutes, maybe a minute and a half, to see if anyone comes in. Then we'll go to our government witnesses and give them an opportunity to prepare. Um, Any responses or from the public? Hello?
Councilmember, you're going to have 2 government witnesses and one of them's joining now.
If we can bring in all government witnesses so I can swear them all in at the same time, that'd be helpful for me. I guess these 9 a.m. hearings is a challenge. I've never in 5 years and I had one public witness show up. Director Kearns, will you be joined by any staff?
Let me check, because I thought I was, but I think we were expecting a little bit more time before. So let me just go double check. Hold on one sec, please.
Gotcha.
Hi, council member. I am expecting Ty Kinlow, one of the attorneys on our team, to be here, but I don't know that she's gotten in yet.
You don't know she's got into work yet? This is a very
No. I mean, I'm looking at the link. I don't see her name listed. Oh, it says she's here. There's a message in the chat that says she's here.
Okay, great. If we can elevate her, please.
Councilmember, you also have Mr. Jordan, who is also a government witness.
Mr. Jordan, are you with DYRS?
I am not. I am with the Office of Independent Juvenile Justice Facility Oversight. And I can explain in my testimony what this office is.
Okay.
It is a government office.
Give us 1 second. While we're waiting, Mr. Jordan, you can start with your opening testimony.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman White and members of the committee. My name is Mark Jordan, and I am Executive Director of the Office of Independent Juvenile Justice Facilities Oversight. As background, the Office of Independent Oversight was created in early 2021, pursuant to a settlement agreement that ended the 35-year-old Jerry M. class action lawsuit. When the lawsuit ended, DYRS had met many, but not all of the requirements of the lawsuit. One of the terms of the settlement agreement required the district to establish by mayoral order the Office of Independent Oversight to monitor the durability of reforms that DYRS had achieved during the Jerry M. litigation and to monitor the agency's progress achieving the goals that DYRS did not achieve during the lawsuit. The 4 goals DYRS did not achieve at its 2 secure facilities, that is the YSC and New Beginnings, pertain to 4 areas. 1 was critical incidents and assaults. 2, behavioral health services. 3, medical services. And 4, fire safety. In the wake of the recent allegations of sexual abuse at the YSC, the topic of this hearing, the safety of youth in the custody of DYRS, is critically important. Youth who are securely confined in detention or congregate care settings are vulnerable, potentially facing serious risks that they would not face if they were in the community. Those youth are not in the care of their parents or legal guardians. They're unable to provide for their most basic needs on their own, including feeding themselves and even using the bathroom without assistance of intervention of facility staff. They're housed in many cases with strangers, or in some cases with youth whom they do know and may have existing conflicts with. And importantly, they are out of sight of the public. The government is obligated to ensure the safety and well-being of the youth in its custody. Youth in DYRS secure facilities face risks to their safety and frankly their health on a daily basis. Violence and assaultive behavior is too common a reality at both facilities. More frequently, violence takes the form of youth on youth and youth on staff assaults, but at times it also manifests as staff on youth assaults. In some cases, youth experience mental health crises, including suicide ideation, which at times results in dangerous self-injurious behaviors that facility staff must recognize and respond to before youth can do harm to themselves. There are also risks to youth safety that are unique to locked facilities, including fire safety risk. In structures that residents cannot freely evacuate themselves from, fires can present catastrophic risks to life. Finally, while more of a health risk, I would be remiss if I did not point out that the COVID pandemic has illuminated how secure facilities are environments in which transmissible diseases can spread rapidly through a population that has limited opportunity to protect itself. Many, but not all of the risks to youth safety that I described are inherent to locked facilities. Others, however, including rates of violence, are not. In order to manage these risks, indeed, to keep youth safe, DYRS must have the appropriate policies, procedures, and systems in place, sufficient line and supervisory staff trained in those policies and procedures operating facilities at all times, and mechanisms to detect and deter violations of policies. And there must be systems, safe, confidential, and widely publicized systems available to youth to report any abuse, neglect, or other concerns they may have regarding their own treatment. As part of the work our office performs, we conduct site visits to both the YSC and New Beginnings. We interview youth and staff and observe facility operations. We also produce targeted reviews of DYRS operations consistent with the duties set forth in the order creating our office. Our most recent report, which was issued last month, addressed staffing levels at the YSC and New Beginnings, which are foundational to creating safe environments for youth. I would be pleased to discuss the work our office conducts at length, but I recognize the time constraints here today. I appreciate the opportunity to testify in front of the committee and would be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Quick question. You said that you have been analyzing staffing other facilities, but you didn't go into your findings. Can you give some more details on what you observed in this is adequate staffing? If you do anything involving trainings, anything out of the unusual, you can give us some more detail on that. That'd be beneficial to all of us.
Sure. We produced a report in February of this year. It's available publicly on our website. And what we do typically, we did a structured review. So we spent a period in December, it was December 2021, so relatively recently. And we went for 7 consecutive days to both the YSC and to New Beginnings. And we went on all 3 shifts. And what we do when we go there is we assess whether the level of staff, excuse me, at the facility is consistent with the number of staff who are supposed to be at the facility. The number of staff who are supposed to be at the facility is prescribed by what are called staff deployment plans. Both facilities have one. And the deployment plans show you exactly how many people at each time of day should be at the facilities. What we found was that there were, frankly, frequently fewer staff at the facility than should have been there. I think staffing is a challenge that DYRS is facing right now. Frequently, there are fewer staff than should be at facilities. And I think it's a long-standing issue at DYRS. I think COVID made that more acute, that problem. But what can happen when you have too few staff at a facility is that rather than having, say, 2 youth development representatives, YDRs, supervising a group of youth in a housing unit, you may only have 1. Instead of having 3 supervisors supervising line staff, you may only have 2 or at times 1. Staffing levels impact operations of facilities, and they can impact safety of youth as well if there aren't sufficient staff available to respond to incidents.
What do you do with your findings from these walkthroughs and these reports?
Contemporaneously, we frequently talk to facility managers. We meet with the director and her executive staff. But ultimately, what we do is we compile them into reports that we produce and we publish.
They have to go to somewhere outside of being published, because it's a fairly, I know little about this office. So when it's published, the public, where does the public go to get this information? Are you directed to send it to anyone? Because I would like to get it in my office and my committee staff, and I'm sure the mayor's office would like to get it as well.
Yes, in fact, we email it out to council offices and to the mayor's staff. And then there is a website. We have a DC government website where the reports are posted as well.
What's the website?
It's dc.oijjfo.gov, I believe is the website.
Yeah, we want to get somebody from our staff to verify that so we can post it. How many people are in this agency?
It's a very small office. Currently, it's just 2 staff members, and we rely on consultants to do. Typically, some of the work that we do is technical related. So we have a very broad mandate. We look at areas including medical services, behavioral health services, fire safety, some of which require highly technical knowledge. So we bring in consultants who are experts in those areas to supplement the staff work that we do.
When you do these visits, are you talking to staff and juveniles at all?
Yes, absolutely. It's core to the work that we do. We try to visit every housing unit when we go there, talk to staff, talk to youth, and we talk to staff throughout, not just YDRs. We talk to facility management staff, talk to education staff, behavioral health staff, medical staff. I've been involved in this role or a similar role through GREM for many years. So I have a lot of relationships with the individuals that work at the facilities, and which helps us gather information.
This is a 24-hour facility. What would you say, based on your observations, their DYRS capacity should be versus what it is?
I would say staffing right now is a real challenge. I think fundamental to any youth safety, there needs to be sufficient staff at the facility to respond to any incidents, to have eyes on the youth at all times. That is key. And right now, I think it's a real challenge. I think hiring in general in this environment is difficult. New beginnings in the YFC are work locations where you can't work remotely. You need to be present, and that can make recruiting more difficult. So there are definitely challenges. I would add, though, that DYRS does have the facilities that they run have certain advantages relative to other facilities. They're both small. The YFC is an 88-bed facility that has 8 housing units. New Beginnings has only 6 housing units. On top of that, the housing units are relatively small. The Youth Services Center, the housing units have 11 beds, which is a small unit. Every youth currently has a single cell to themselves, which is much safer and better than congregate settings where youth sleep in a dormitory setting. At New Beginnings, similarly, they are 10-bed units, so each youth has their own individual cell, which is safer than dormitory settings. Those are definite advantages. It's also the case that DYRS is experiencing relatively low populations right now. There have been times in the past where the YSC at its peak had over 150 youth housed at the facility designed for 88 youth maximum. In those cases, youth are housed in dormitories and the situation gets very dangerous. Right now, DYRS is at an advantage, I would say. It's an opportunity to build because they have, I think right now, in the order of 60 youth at the YSC. So that creates for a better environment. But it is crucial that there are always enough staff to supervise the youth who are there.
Yeah, I guess I was asking for more so a numbers, an analysis. And you said you've been around a long time. I've been there's 7 different 7 different visits with this lens. I'm trying to get some specifics on that. If you have it, if not, that's fine. Just want to.
I understand. So with respect to the number of staff who should be there, is that the question?
Based on your observations of how many youth are there, the
Mhm.
size of the facility, what's the need? I mean, medical staff, security, YDR. I mean, whatever staff you have, based on the agency. What do you think some of the missing gaps are?
Yeah, and I think ultimately the most acute need, I think, is youth development representative staff. And so there's 2 things. There's the number that you need present at the facility at any given time. And then there's the total number of staff, your total staffing complement that you need in order to fill all of those posts on a given day. We saw the way that the schedule works in DYRS, there are all staff days and there are days when not all staff who are assigned need to be there. We did see days when there were, maybe 7 fewer youth development representatives there than should have been there. And the result is that you have housing units with maybe 1 YDR supervising a group of youth, and that's not ideal. So I think the answer is they need to be able to get enough staff on any given shift present. That may mean using overtime in the short term to bring staff in. In the longer term, that may mean hiring more staff to their complement. I think at the moment, they have vacant positions, so they need to fill the vacancies. And then there is the question of, do they need more on top of that? I don't know the answer to that. That's a question, it's a technical question involving something called the relief factor. And we have to look.
Based on us coming out of Jury M decree and trying to stay on track with that, have you analyzed DYRS policies, and are there any recommendations you suggest, if so, to help us keep the agency on track with that?
We have not done a comprehensive review of every policy. Typically, what we'll do is when we assess a specific area, we review the policies related to that area. To give you a specific example, we're looking at actually one aspect of medical, the dental services right now. And so in the process of that, we look at all of the policies related to dental services, and then we will say, we make recommendations about changes. So
You spoke in your opening statement about the level of assaults, peer to peer, peer to staff, and sometimes staff to peer. What recommendations do you have for the agency, if any, to decrease that number?
assaults were core part of the GREM litigation. The first goal of GREM, there was a work plan, and the first goal had to do with critical assaults and injuries to youth. The way that GREM approached this issue was to say, you need to create systems that systematically collect all information on incidents, capture, and then routinely review and analyze that information so that you can respond to trends in incidents regularly to try to control them. The reason is because incident trends vary over time and location frequently. To give you an example, I would say the youth on youth assault phenomenon at the YSC is different than at, say, New Beginnings. Typically at the YSC, you see more assaultive behavior on intake units. It's a facility where youth come in from the street. So youth come in, new social dynamics are created among youth who are at the facility. They've been there a shorter amount of time. There are other housing units at the facility, including these Title 16 youth who have been there for a long time. They know each other and they've established sort of an equilibrium in there. So I would say that what GREM prescribed is a good system, a good framework, which is you need to pay attention all the time, gather it systematically, and analyze which units they're happening on. Are there individuals who are engaging in repeated patterns of behavior where there can be interventions, behavioral health interventions as needed? And that has happened. DYRS has built those systems. They have an IT system called FamCare. They systematically enter incident reports into it. And there's a review process that's independent that does quality assurance on how those incidents are categorized. And on top of that, there are actual incident review teams who conduct reviews of incidents and look for trends. I haven't looked at that in several months, probably a year. Something we could look at again, but they do have systems to do this.
Let me ask you this. What were your thoughts when DC government decided to move the Title 16 youth from the DC jail under DYRS care? And from that, have you seen anything that stuck out that we need to know about in this committee?
I understand the impulse. These are still young people, and treating them as young people, I understand the impulse to do that. Originally, those Title 16 youth were moved to New Beginnings. New Beginnings is a very different facility, as you know, than the YSC. New Beginnings is on a campus. There is a lot of outdoor space. Title 16 youth tend to spend quite a bit of time detained prior to release, in some cases years. There are, I believe, still youth who were originally moved over when they came from the DOC. So it's been multiple years for some of these youth. When they were at New Beginnings, frankly, New Beginnings, I think, is a preferable facility to spend an extended period of time. They were subsequently moved to the YSC. The YSC, in some ways, is it's a secure facility. It's a very secure facility, but there are limited opportunities to move within the facility. It's just much more confining. I would say one thing that has been addressed to some extent recently has been the educational program. Recently, the YSC changed education providers. It used to be DCPS, and it is now Maya Angelou Academy. I think that has been an improvement with respect to the resources that are available to Title 16 youth. They've been able to, some of them attend college courses at UDC. They can pursue GEDs. So I think that is preferable, and we will continue to look at that.
I know when I was there a few weeks ago, two of the young people who were recently detained. I spoke with them outside of their cells, and they were concerned about them being in their cells for 23 hours. I guess this is during the intake process. What are your thoughts as relates to that type of time inside of a cell for a juvenile? I think this person was 13, 13 or 14. It was two of them.
I think that for an intake process, there are reasons to do that for an intake process for a short amount of time. I'm surprised to hear that that would be going on beyond the intake process. So when youth come into a facility, there's certainly, COVID has shown there are reasons to isolate youth until they get test results back demonstrating that they do not have transmittable diseases. But there are also, before you release youth to interact with other youth, you want to make sure that there aren't going to be any unknown conflicts that you should be aware of before youth interact with one another. That should happen fairly quickly and you should be released. If it's happening beyond intake and there's no other reason, like medical isolations, I think that's it's problematic. That 23 hours in the cell is too long. We saw during COVID, you spent extensive time in cells and it was extremely difficult. It was, I'm quite pleased to see that youth spend much more time out of their cells now. So if that's happening on a routine basis beyond the initial days of intake, I would be troubled by that.
I noticed that you said in your report that New Beginnings, which property staff YSC did not meet the requirements. What was the difference between the two?
New Beginnings did have some issues. It wasn't always properly, but it did not face the same ones that the YSC did. I think the YSC is a more challenging facility to operate than New Beginnings is. When you have youth that routinely come in and out of the facility, which the YSC does, it creates a lot of youth movement, so that by itself is challenging. You have 8 housing units and you have to divide a lot of population. So at the YSC, you have 8 housing units, but 1 is for girls, 3 are for Title 16 youth, 2 are intake units, and then you have detained and committed youth. And so with all of this separation happening, it just creates a lot of operational demand, which requires more YDRs. The simple fact of needing more YDRs creates more staffing pressures at the YSC. I think that's one of the big issues. You just need more staff to run it, particularly on the AM shift. The morning shift is a particularly challenging shift. You have school happening. You have a lot of movement back and forth to medical. And I think that's probably the biggest driver. And it also, I mean, it does have to do with the staff who are assigned to the facility and whether or not they're available for duty. If they're out on workers' comp or sick leave or something else, it affects staffing.
Got it. Thank you. I do want to say that based on the new responsibilities of this office and with you being involved in DYS from what I'm hearing for so long, you add another lens to what we're trying to do. So I would like to see more of you and of your staff in these hearings so we can know what's going on, because the reality is that I'm not there every day. And when I am there, I get a number of complaints, of course, but that may be few far in between for something that may be happening daily if we have an office designated to do just that. It's important. It should be in these hearings on a regular basis.
Absolutely. We're pleased to do that and also to meet with you and your staff outside of these hearings whenever you'd like.
Thank you. Appreciate you. I'm going to move to Director Hillary Kearns, DYRS. Is anyone else joining you, Director?
No, well, Ty Kinlow, one of our attorneys, is present, but I'm the only one speaking now.
Will she be speaking at any time?
She's available to if there are specific legal questions that come up.
We want to make sure we get all government witnesses sworn in at the beginning, just in case she has to answer anything.
Sure.
Thank you. If you can start by raising your right hand. It is a practice of this office to swear in all government witnesses. Do you swear or affirm by the penalty of perjury that this testimony you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Ms. Kinlaw, you have to speak into the mic.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Director, you can start with your opening statement.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairperson White and members of the Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs. I am Hillary Cairns, Director of the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services, and I'm joined here today by Ty Kinlaw, one of the attorneys on our staff. At DYRS, we are acutely aware that we enter the lives of young people at a pivotal time, a time of possibility and potential transformation. We have the great responsibility of helping them and their families successfully navigate this critical period. Led by the principles of care, compassion, healing, and restoration, we help our young people develop the skills to cope with trauma, equip them with the tools necessary to overcome adversity, and surround them with the resources, opportunities, and supports for fostering their positive development. As you are aware, many youth in our care have already experienced extraordinary traumas, and the notion that an agency employee might have harmed a youth sickens me and sickens the rest of my DYRS colleagues who come to this work for all the right reasons. While I cannot speak to the specifics of the employee or the status of the investigation, what we do know is that he has been charged with first-degree sexual abuse of a minor. I can also state that as soon as DYRS learned of the allegations, we immediately contacted the Child and Family Services Agency and the Metropolitan Police Department. Additionally, in coordination with MPD, the agency immediately opened an internal investigation, reviewing hundreds of hours of video footage, ultimately resulting in the charges filed against the DYRS employee. Regardless of innocence or guilt, I am as horrified as you are about the mere possibility that the allegation is true. It is not lost on me that when caring for children, the standards we must meet exceed normal standards because of the incredible power differential between youth and staff in our facilities. And while it is each of our responsibilities to ensure colleagues follow protocols, ultimately the responsibility is mine. I accepted the job to be DYRS director because of my deep care for our city's young people and my core belief that every young person, no matter their past actions, deserves to be supported, cared for, guided, and given a chance at succeeding after their time with DYRS is concluded. The community, particularly caregivers, and most importantly, the youth themselves, need an answer to the question, how could this have happened? We hope to be able to provide more information after the legal proceedings have concluded, but we need to make sure that we do not in any way compromise the investigations into this matter. In the meantime, I hope to focus on the trust the community has in DYRS and assure families that their loved ones are safe under our care. Repairing the trust takes time. In the interim, I can share our immediate response to the allegations, which included increasing supervision throughout the facility, increasing behavioral health supports and regular check-ins with facility leadership for the youth involved in the allegation, conducting a wholesale review of our policies and procedures. Immediately following the allegation, the agency has retrained secure program staff in various policies and procedures and federal laws vital to ensuring resident safety, and reviewing hundreds of hours of video to determine whether other staff require retraining or, if warranted, disciplinary action. Furthermore, in addition to our internal response, we also have two independent entities located at both secure facilities, providing our youth with a different outlet to raise concerns. I'm referring to the Public Defender Service and the Office of Independent Juvenile Justice Facilities Oversight, and you just met Mr. Jordan from that office. PDS has offices at both facilities, providing our youth legal assistance and other critical supports. And the OIJJFO was established in 2021 to regularly monitor and publicly report on DYRS's management of our secure facilities. These partners play a critical role in providing our youth with an independent avenue to express concerns regarding the care they receive under DYRS. Chairperson White, in closing, as you know, I've held the role of director for 8 months. And even in this short time, I can state without hesitation that the potential actions of one of our employees is absolutely not who we are at DYRS. The overwhelming majority of our staff care for our youth in our facilities as if they were their own. We are all heartbroken that this allegation could occur, and we are doing everything in our power to prevent similar allegations from ever occurring again. DYRS would like to commend our partners at the Metropolitan Police Department, the Child and Family Services Agency, the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice, and the Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs for the continued support throughout this investigation. We are also grateful to the support from Mayor Bowser, council members, advocates, and the public in helping us to continue to serve our youth. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I'm prepared to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director. I guess my first question is, on what did you get notice of these allegations?
It was on February 27th.
And what date did you all start an internal investigation?
I mean, that night was when the incidents were reported to police and Child and Family Service Agency, and we started working with them the following day.
So did you all start your own internal investigation, or you just relied on MPD?
We're doing simultaneous, so both.
And what date did DYS start their internal investigation?
On the following day, the 28th.
Okay, got it. Are there any other incidents like this that are pending in investigation?
I mean, I can't speak to individual investigations that are happening, that might be happening within the agency.
Yeah, this is a general question. It's not a specific. It's not a specific incident. It's a general question. Are any other investigations like this happening at the agency that involve any type of sexual assault?
So we have ongoing investigations for all incidents that are reported to our internal investigation team. I can get back to you if there are specifics related to sexual abuse.
Do you know if there are any other sexual abuse investigations at DYRS?
There's one additional investigation that's occurring that I know of, but I want to not give you a false number. If there are additional ones, I know of one other.
Thank you. Since you've been in position, is this particular incident the first allegation of a sexual impropriety at DYRS?
You're saying, so since I've been here, is this the first time that I've heard an allegation?
Is this the first incident in which you heard of?
Yes.
Okay. What is the protocol of DYRS when allegations such as this arise to your attention?
So we follow very strict protocols regarding incidents, allegations of sexual abuse, whether that be a youth from a staff person or a youth versus a youth. So the reports go to the Child and Family Services Agency and to the Metropolitan Police Department. And then we also have our own internal investigative team that's specially trained to be able to investigate allegations of sexual assault.
Are there any, I heard you speak to youth related sexual assaults. Is there any other staff to staff allegations pending an investigation at the moment?
Not that I know of.
Has anyone else, to your knowledge, made any other allegations against the person of interest in this particular allegation? I'm trying to be choicy with my words, but are you understanding my question?
Yeah, I do. I can't speak to the specifics regarding the employee.
Okay, and I have to ask the question. You can speak to what you can speak to. How long has this alleged person been with the agency?
Yeah, again, I can't talk about individual personnel records or status in the agency.
Um, what is the protocol as relates to male male escorting or moving around a female and a female escorting moving around a male in DYRS?
Yeah, so we followed national standards regarding regarding interactions between different gendered staff and youth. We do not there, and national standards do not call for distinctions except in circumstances of pat down searches. And if there's only one staff person on a unit, it's supposed to be of the same gender. But otherwise, our staff do all of the things on different units, whether it be a male unit, male staff, female staff. I would note that that the vast majority of the staff that are on our female unit are females, but it's not a rule that it has to be that way.
Okay, so I'm confused in your answer. So is the protocol for male staff to escort males, or it can be either way any given moment?
It can be either way at any given moment.
Based on what has happened here, is it your position to change this, or you want to keep it the same? What's your thoughts as the leader of this agency?
I mean, we're looking at all of our policies and procedures, and first and foremost, just we have so many protections that are in place to guard against the sort of allegation that has come up through this investigation. And again, I mean, national standards do not call for, and our own, we have about 50% of our staff are female, 50% male. Logistically, it's not feasible to have things be that way. And that's not on the table for us right now to change our protocols. And again, with the exception of same gender identifying for pat down searches, monitoring like showers and things like that are gender specific.
How many cameras do you all have at DYRS?
I don't know the exact count. I don't know. Sure. Pardon me?
YSC and New Beginnings.
I definitely can get back to you with the exact number of cameras. I think council member, I'm not sure if when you were last at the facility, you could see, we have a control room which shows cameras that are operating all throughout the facilities, but all our common spaces, hallways, housing units are cameraed. So the exceptions are in youth's individual rooms, bathroom, showers, and then individual staff offices.
So I'm assuming you have two different control rooms from both facilities, correct?
Yes, there's a control. You mean there's an on-site one at YSC and there's an on-site one at New Beginnings.
Are there any external ways to view cameras at these facilities?
I'm not sure what you mean by external.
So I have a camera at my house. I can view my camera on my phone if I'm not.
I don't know, actually. I'm not sure. I'll find out.
How many people are staffed inside of the control room with these cameras?
Our typical staffing, I believe, is 2 at both sites. So the 2 all the time. Each one of them has a series of cameras that they're monitoring. The rooms are pretty small, so you really can't fit many more people than that in the rooms, but it's 2 people.
Okay. And what is their job while they're there?
So their job is to look at the cameras for one, but they're monitoring movement. So when they're basically like the equivalent of air traffic controllers. I mean, they're monitoring movement throughout the facility. So for movement to occur, they're radioing, they're opening and closing doors. So really, they're in charge of all the movement that's happening in the facilities.
Okay, so that and I can imagine that's a lot of tasks. I know when I'm in a facility, they have to, you know, move different people throughout different units. So it is my guess that they can't see everything. Um, what are their hours and or shifts?
I believe that their shifts are in line with our regular shifts that we have. So there's 6:30 to, I might be off by half hours here and there, but 6:30 to 2:30, 2:30 to 10:30, 10:30 to 6:30. So they follow the same shift as the rest of the teams.
And do you know how many, and are these security guards?
No, these are youth development representatives. So they could be assigned to the control room or someone could be assigned to a unit. I mean, it's one of the posts that are available for our YDRs.
Okay, so this is random people moving around on a shift to have the responsibility of being in this space. So it's not designated to a certain type of staff.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't call them random. I mean, they receive extensive training to have that role.
What is that training? Who administers that training? And how often is that training administered?
I mean, it's administered by facility leadership, and some peer-to-peer training as well. So in terms of, I mean, we would only we would retrain if someone needed to be retrained, but once you know how to do it, I don't know how much retraining has, except if we're seeing that there's something is awry.
What are they training on?
What to, like, literally, how do you watch the cameras? I mean, because there's a process to it, like how you're moving around with the cameras. How do you use the radio, opening and closing the doors? What kind of things would alert you to be contacting a supervisor if there was some kind of movement that wasn't appropriate? So all of the pieces that go with just looking at the movement within the facility.
In your 8 months, do you know, based on these two facilities, about how many times persons viewing these cameras had to alert a supervisor at all?
I do not. I can see if we can get that kind of data.
Have you heard of anything, anyone monitoring those devices having to do that? If you don't know the number, have you heard of that?
No, I have not.
Who from your staff supervises that portion of the operation?
Well, that team, I mean, our structure is we have YDRs report to supervisory youth development representatives, so SYDRs, and then they report to deputy, and deputy reports to superintendent.
In the case of an incident occurring that a person might see on camera, who does that person report directly to? And once that happens, then what's the next step?
So they would report to their supervisor, and then they're required to complete what are called incident reports.
Okay, the incident report is sent to who?
The incident reports go through entire facility leadership, and then we have a team that's reviewing the incident reports. And I think Mr. Jordan mentioned, we have internal review that's occurring. We do video review of the incidents. We have regular meetings, weekly meetings, to go over specific incidents that have occurred on camera as mechanisms for training to make sure that we handle things correctly. So those incident reports touch a large number of people within the agency.
What day of the week and time is this incident reporting meeting, and have you been having it for 8 months straight every week?
I'd have to look at, I don't go to all of them. I've been to some. There's one for New Beginnings and one for YSC. I can definitely get you the date and time that those occur each week. And they've been going on the entire time I've been here.
I can imagine that some of your senior level staff are in tune to this hearing, so we can have it by the end of this hearing. It'd be beneficial to myself and other council members and the public. And during those meetings that's happening weekly, at what point is it pushed to you to review?
Incidents that would involve significant disciplinary action against an employee, or, incidents that involve significant injury to a young person, those would come to me.
In your 8 months, about, if you know the exact number, or about how many have escalated to you?
Off the top of my head, I'd say 10.
Okay. What happens when you get these high level pushed up incidents that come to you? And I know they're different based on what different types of incidents, but tell me, based on your experience in your short period of time there, what do you do with this information?
I mean, I'm typically reviewing the videos myself, but then meeting with leadership in the facilities, as well as other leadership on my team who may not work in the facilities, and understanding what are we doing? What are our next steps?
Do you know roughly how many superintendents you have?
There's one superintendent for each facility.
And are these long term? Have they been there a long time? What's the tenure of these superintendents?
I don't know the exact dates of their employment, but both superintendents have been in their roles for several years.
Several, is that over 5? Is that over 10?
I would be making it up. I believe it's around 5 or so for each, but I'll see if we can get it while I'm here.
This alleged person and this incident that summoned us here today, how do I want to word this? Do you know if he had any other previous incidents in his jacket that warrants attention?
Yeah, again, I can't speak to his individual record.
Okay, I do. Okay. So it is alleged that this particular person had another incident serving as a abscondence unit that is alleged to be reported, but eventually dismissed. And I'm concerned, about if this is true, then maybe this could have been prevented. I'm not sure if you saw or not, but when this incident happened, and it came out to the public, I took one of the news articles I read and I posted on my social media, and there were about 4 females who knew of this gentleman that spoke to their feelings and thoughts about this particular gentleman and other related incidents. And so I guess for me and for oversight of the agency, we want to make sure that there has been proper protocols followed, due diligence, and any way that this could have been prevented. I asked about the cameras because what's the room? Let me see what it is. And are there cameras in the 1600 Resource Center?
Yes.
How many?
I don't know the exact number, but the room has cameras.
Tell me.
There's more than one.
Tell me a little bit about what's the purpose and function of this room.
Room 1600 is where we have programming. So it's a large space. I guess the equivalent of kind of like a very large conference room, maybe, to give you sort of scope of the size. So there's various programming for young people that happens there. It also has been used a lot for virtual court during COVID.
Who has access to this room?
anyone with facility access. So it's a space that is accessible by facility staff.
Let me ask you this, how many, do you have a breakdown of how many female staff you have and how many male staff you have at each facility? And I know they all have various roles and titles.
I could get you the exact information. What I do know is that we're about 50-50 at both sites. But I can certainly provide you with like the literal breakdown that would give you exact numbers.
And also, can you give me to the level of YDRs as well?
Okay.
And credible messengers.
Okay.
According to the victim's accusation, how long was the youth in custody before she first alleged her sexual assault, or you all became aware of it from the person or a potential staff person?
Yeah, I can't speak at all to the young person who's in our care.
Do you know any other female that's detained by DRS having these same allegations against this person or any other person?
I apologize, council member, that I can't speak to accusations against staff or confidential information regarding young people.
What has been the protocols for this young person after these allegations of these assaults?
So we follow the federal standards called PREA. There are various protocols that have to occur after an allegation like this occurs. So the reporting process, who's informed, follow up with the young person to ensure there's not retaliation. So we've followed all of those protocols, offering additional behavioral health supports and facility-based supports, and those have all occurred.
Are there any mental health supports offered as a response to this?
Yeah, we have a team of behavioral health support staff that's at YSC, and those have all been made available they're made available to all young people in our facility.
Has there been any medical examinations that DRS ensured since the allegations occurred?
Yes.
Has there been any change in living quadrants after this incident has occurred?
No.
To date, based on your earlier testimony, are males still allowed to go to females' areas and vice versa?
Yes. Yeah, we continue to follow our practices, but again, I certainly could, and I'm happy to do this. The vast majority of the time, our girls unit is staffed by female identifying staff, but we have not changed a rule that says there cannot be any male identifying staff there.
How many females do you have in each facility as youth, and how many males do you have in each facility as youth?
I believe at YSC, we currently have 2 girls, and our number today, I haven't seen today's number, but I think we were at 60 yesterday, so that would make 58 males. At YSC, at New Beginnings, we have 3 girls and 24 boys, I believe.
What is the capacity of total youth in each facility?
YSC, the capacity is 88, and New Beginnings, the capacity is 60.
Okay, the number must have changed from what I know. Okay. In your testimony, You mentioned increasing regular check-ins. What was the previous practice of check-ins and what is it increasing to?
Check-in, sorry, you're referring to check-ins regarding the incident or I said we increased sort of supervisory movement throughout the facility, making sure that our supervisors are checking in with the units and with just all the things that are going on during the day. So both supervisors and managers. With regard to this specific incident, the PREA protocol is that there be check-in with the person who makes the allegation, that we have to do check-ins regarding potential retaliation that could happen when a young person reports an allegation against a staff person.
What is the definition of a check-in? What happens during this check-in?
I believe that there are some specific things to be asked, and again related to retaliation, or if there are additional supports that a person who's made an allegation needs from us, continuing to offer up the internal supports that we have.
Okay. So there was an incident, then there was some type of meeting to staff that say, because of this has to change, or there should be more of check-ins, right? Because you say it's happening after the incident, so there has to be some directives given out. What's the gist of that conversation? How does that look?
So I apologize for the check-ins with the person who made the allegation, or for different movement within the facility overall.
You said your supervisors are making more regular check-ins throughout the facility since this incident.
Got it. Okay, so I mean that was a directive that came from leadership and facility leadership to their management team to be doing rounding throughout the facility more frequently. Yeah.
Do you have a mechanism in which employees and or youth can communicate with you anonymously?
I do receive some information anonymously, but I also I also am open and have many communications with staff where I commit to maintaining confidentiality with them. So it's not that they're coming to me anonymously, but that I maintain confidentiality in my conversations with them.
Typically, in situations like this, people are afraid to speak up or speak out for fear of retaliation. Is this something that DYRS is doing to fight against that type of culture, if it's there?
Definitely. So I know, I think probably talked about it in my confirmation hearing and in my performance hearing, that has been raised as a concern, retaliation against employees for various reasons. And you can read the history of DYRS. This is not a new thought on some challenges with the agency. And I have absolutely, along with the leadership team, and just really by talking with staff all across the agency, have done as best I can to ensure that retaliation does not occur, and encourage people to come forward if there are things that they want to share about their experience working with DYRS or concerns with the agency. So leading by example is the way that I'm moving on this.
In hiring, and I have to acknowledge that most of the people that are there in DYRS were there prior to you being there, but in practice through HR, is there some type of balance of hiring female staff and hiring male staff based on the projected number of youth? Because I hear there's very few female and there's probably way more males. So do you hire based on that? analysis, and is this usual?
Like I said, we have our staff are hired. Absolutely, our staff are not hired based on their gender. I think that would be illegal. But you know, we're very careful in our hiring process. It's a multi-step process to have the role of YDR. And I think you specifically mentioned YDR, which is a really important role in our agency. But our hiring decisions are not made based on their gender identity.
So I am concerned with that, which I'll get into later. What is any outside programming for the development of ladies in custody? I guess who are the partners? How often do they provide services for the female population in both facilities?
So we have, so you're saying sort of gender specific programming? Is that what you're asking about? Okay. At YSC, the people who are working on the unit are working with the girls and often do a lot of activities that the girls on the unit are asking to do. At New Beginnings, we have a unit that's dedicated, that our journey unit, where we have extensive programming that include that's gender specific in the community. We have a girls group that meets multiple times each week. And so those are some of the things that we have in place.
Your security contract, is that internal or is that external contract?
The security contracts are through the DGS.
And who is your security contract with?
I feel like I've seen Sam, but I can definitely find out for sure.
I think that's correct. Do you know if that's at both facilities?
I am not sure. I'm thinking we have the same contract in both places, but I don't want to say that that's definite. I can find out.
I guess I heard the previous testimony about education. Could you tell me a little bit about the human interaction for education and where this takes place in YSC and New Beginnings?
So where are the teachers? Like actually, where does the education occur?
Is it a classroom? Is it a group room? Is it they come into the cells to teach them at the individual cells? If you can give us some details on that.
Yeah, so all of the above. It depends on where they are in the so at YSC, as you know, YSC are that's the initial move to our facility. So they would never go straight to New Beginnings. It's intended to be short-term detention facility for the first couple of days that they're with us. For the first couple of days, the teaching happens on the units. And then once they're beyond 5 days, it's moving into the classrooms. Some of the teaching still does happen on the units too. It just is depending on sort of how many young people we have and kind of what's going on in each of the different units. So they're happening in different ways. At New Beginnings, the school is in a separate, it's in a separate building. I think, I know you've been there, but it's in the area by the cafeteria versus, down the hallway.
And for those who are in the control rooms doing these different movements and or group meetings, how are they able to assess these moving parts all at one time? What's the training that speaks to how do you analyze for potential danger or inappropriate incident?
Yeah, I mean, again, the training that occurs is, how to, like literally how to monitor the cameras, what are the specific things that you should be looking for, what merits a radio call to somebody, when it's okay to open and close doors. It's all of those pieces are part of the training.
Are there any protocols that prevent a staff of opposite sex being with the person of opposite sex one-on-one at any time?
No, I mean, with the exception of, again, pat down searches. If there's only one YDR that's on the girls unit, it needs to be a female unless there's emergency circumstances. So just in those situations. Council member, I did get, sorry, go ahead.
Now you about to give us an update on something.
I did, you had asked specifically about number of cameras. So at YSC, we have 186 cameras. At New Beginnings, we have 161 cameras. And then you asked about how long our leadership at the two facilities. I was off by a little bit, so apologies. Our YSC superintendent has been at the facility since 2007, but in the superintendent role for the last 3 years. And at New Beginnings has been at the facility for the last 7 years, but in the leadership role for the last 3 years.
Thank you. I was asking about the one-on-one interactions.
Yes.
Is there any other employee implicated in these allegations during this current case that brings us here today?
I can't speak to any individual employee disciplinary actions or anything.
Are there any other employees under investigation related to this particular incident?
Not that I'm aware of. And I would note, I know it's come up a bunch about the investigation regarding the employee that I should have mentioned earlier, that the detective is Detective Eric Wright at MPD. You touched on a moment where you said on your social media that there may have been other people who were expressing concerns, and they should definitely know that Detective Eric Wright is the person at MPD who's handling this investigation.
Is this and so with your agency, I can assume that there are
Council member, I apologize. It's Detective Eric Walsh, not Eric Wright. My apologies. Walsh is the last name. Very sorry.
in this communication with MPD, is this still ongoing or has it stopped at this point?
As far as I know, it's still ongoing.
Has MPD confiscated any video footage in this particular incident?
We shared video footage with them. So they have, I guess, I don't know if confiscated is, they have access to the videos.
Have any of you, or your staff taken any time out to go and do any, again, I want to say surveillance, but looked at any videos related to this incident?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we have an Office of Internal Integrity. Sorry, I'm not great with acronyms. That is in the midst of an investigation that includes reviewing hours of video.
Okay. How many people are assigned to that?
The unit, I believe, has 4 people.
Is that 4 people cover? Does that 4 people cover both facilities?
Yes.
DYS also has facilities outside of these 2 facilities in which they are responsible for programming. Are they responsible for the investigations of those facilities as well?
That office, the OII office, does the investigations just within our secure facilities, within YSC and New Beginnings.
based on this investigation, um, was there one area in which these allegations took place, or several areas in which these allegations took place?
I can't speak to the specifics of the allegations.
Based on the allegations, were was the video footage viewed for one or more than one of places as relates to these allegations?
Again, I can't speak to the specifics of the allegations.
Based on the allegations, what is the time frame of these alleged allegations, to your knowledge? 2 months, 3 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years? What is the time frame?
Again, I apologize. I can't speak to the specifics of the allegations.
Based on allegations, did these allegations take place within the last 2 years?
I can't speak to the specifics.
Based on these allegations, does the camera footage show sufficient amount of information that dates back to the beginning of the allegations?
That's a question for MPD.
Based on the allegations, has any other employees been interviewed as relates to these particular incidents? And
Yeah, I can't speak to the ins and outs of the investigation that's happening either internally or by our law enforcement partners.
Based on these allegations, are there protections offered for individuals who have or are being investigated during the time of this investigation?
I can't speak to that.
In your understanding, are there any incidents that occurred outside the facility, from a staff person to a youth, that you are aware of?
I'm not aware of anything. But again, I would encourage accessing Metropolitan Police Department if there are other allegations.
Based on this incident occurring at a detention facility that oversees and cares for juveniles, are there any leadership directives that is changing in the agency, in the immediate future, or already happened?
Mhm. Yeah, so I mean, I can't speak to personnel decision making, but I would say that we're doing a really careful review of all of our policies and procedures, and recognizing that our standard of care is extraordinarily high, and that we have our policy and procedures are all designed to guard against the types of allegations that have come forward. And part of this look at whether or not we're always following our protocols is a look at our staffing and whether or not our procedures have all been followed.
Thank you. Give me a moment. Let me check if any of my colleagues have come in, because I see them texting about the council mayor's meeting today. Give me 1 second. Thank you. No one has responded yet. I'm trying to get them a chance to chime in. Let's see. I don't want to hold you over, Director.
I'm fine.
All right, Director. I don't see anyone. One second. All right. As a final note for this hearing, if anyone cannot testify but would like to submit written testimony to be included in the official record, you can email your testimony to rya@dccouncil.us. The official record will close on March 29th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. With no other business before this committee, this hearing is adjourned. The time is now 10:38 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you.